wife. I hope she's doing well. I know how exciting this must be a time for you. I know your name has a special meaning in the Cameroon language. I don't want to butcher your son's name, so if you could just pronounce them for us and tell us how you and your wife arrived at them.
Yeah, no problem. First and foremost, thank you. It's been a great 2021 so far. I couldn't imagine it being pictured out any better or laid out any better, for lack of better words. I've got to give my wife a tremendous amount of credit. She's done an amazing job, and she wanted to have them naturally, which she was amazing in the birth room doing that, especially with two very big twins and whatnot. So we're excited about them. And then with regard to their names, Kingston was the first one that came out. And my mother's from Kingston, Jamaica. So that's kind of where I got that origination from there. And there's also some underlying meanings of king, kind of a group of my friends that we all grew up here in Portland together. Kind of see us as the four kings and whatnot. So that's kind of the origination for actually both of the boys, because Kari, his name has a meaning of kingly. So they both roam in that king in concept and whatnot. So we love the names, and we each decided one of each. I did Kingston, she did Kari, and there's a lot more meanings to their middle names and whatnot, but I don't think we shared them. We might have, but their middle names come from their grandfathers, my father, a couple close friends, and then obviously they've got the great last name in Suh. So they've they've got lots of meanings to their names, to say the least.
They sure do. Hey, it's a fantastic time. I just wanted to ask you, I know Tom Brady gets a lot of publicity for tossing the Lombardi Trophy across the river, but I didn't see him dance with it like you did. How much of the fun that you had last year? You know, you've accomplished everything in this game, in Ndamukong. Well, why come back and play another year, and why stay here in Tampa?
Yeah, you're right. I've been super blessed from the standpoint of being able to have a ton of individual accolades. And this past year, finally had the opportunity to be a part of being one of the linchpin in the success of a dominant defense, to lead our ways through the playoffs, but at the same time, close out a Super Bowl win in great fashion. I couldn't have really wished a better way or a better layout of how the game was kind of put on our shoulders, to take no credit away from our offense, because they did an amazing job putting all those points on the board. But we expect that from them. And so at the end of the day, I wanted to have an opportunity to come back with a group of guys that have an opportunity to potentially go back and earn another ring. And the thing about it is, when you look at what we've been able to accomplish last year, and then also the ability of all the bad things that we went through and that we encountered in ourselves, imagine us cleaning that up even more, than adding depth to our particular team with the draft. And obviously Mr. Light's going to do some amazing stuff as he's done throughout free agency, and finding other guys to fill in particular voids and more depth. I think, again, the sky's the limit for us. We just got to continue to hone in, understand what Coach Aarons wants from each and one of us, and really embrace our roles. And so I'm excited.
Thanks.
Next, we'll go to Greg Allman.
Hey, Ndamukong, congratulations again. As you were deciding here in recent weeks, I'm curious whether this was just deciding between retirement and coming back in terms of hanging it up or coming back, or whether there were any other teams that were in play for you. It seemed like you had very much wanted to come back here, so I was curious about that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely wanted to come back, and Tampa was the first choice. I did look at some other teams. I'm not going to really divulge what those teams were, but there's some teams that had obviously a chance to win. They were recently in the playoffs. And so for me, Tampa was always the ultimate goal to come back there. I'm super comfortable in that city. Great relationships with the staff. And like I said before, and I've said many times, I love playing Coach Bowles' defense.
Thanks, Ndamukong.
No problem.
Next, we'll go to Jenna Lane.
Hey, Ndamukong, congratulations on the new deal and the new arrivals for you guys. I know a lot of us can't really relate to having twins or being a Super Bowl champion, but just what has your life been like, your life and Tadia's life been like in the last couple months there with your new arrivals? I can imagine you guys probably aren't sleeping a whole lot.
Life has been good. I'll say that without question. Kati has done an amazing job. Also, the boys gravitate towards her because she's the one that can feed them. I'm sure if I could feed them, they would gravitate towards me, but they're actually amazing. They like to sleep, eat, and poop, and keep that on repeat. So they're fairly pretty easy. And really from a standpoint of sleep, I mean, during the weeks, we've got a tremendous amount of support from my parents, her parents. So we're good there from that perspective. And overall, just it's a life right now that I don't even think about worrying about sleep. I'm focused on working out in the mornings, and I'm home all day with them.
Some of my favorite photos and videos from the parade are of you and Donovan Smith dancing with the trophy and just the look of joy on you guys' faces. Like, it just really seems like even in the short time that you've been here, that you've really bonded with all of these guys. And you've been on a number of other teams. And obviously team chemistry is such an important thing. What is that connection that you have with these guys? What is that like? And how does that compare to the connections that you've made on other teams? It just seems like you guys are really close.
Yeah, you're 100% right. We are a very close team, and I think we all have great personalities that all mesh together. Even though the team is fairly young, and I'm considered a super old head when it comes to football, and a lot of the young guys make fun of me just because I'm out of some of the trends that are going on and whatnot. I got to ask some questions, but overall, it's just a great group of guys that are pretty much egoless and love just being able to have the opportunity to win, be successful, and at the same time have a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we'll go to Scott Reynolds.
Hey, Dom, congrats on all the great news you've had here to start 2021. When you look at your production last year as a pass rusher with 6 sacks, that was more than the previous year in Tampa, and then you had 1.5 in the Super Bowl. Do you feel like you had a better year in 2020 than you did the previous year in Todd Bowles' system here in Tampa?
Yeah, without question, I think I had a better year, and I think I found ways to be more successful in a particular defense that we're running, and I understand how I'm kind of put in the defense in a lot of ways where sometimes I have to be a decoy to free up other guys, which I have no problem doing. And I've done that a lot in my career from a standpoint, but also I like to join the party and have fun myself. So at the end of the day, I'm really focused on whatever's best for the team. But at the same time, I got to be able to continue to produce and make plays. And I think even just being able to have 6 sacks in the regular season and 1.5 in the Super Bowl, as you mentioned, I still left a lot of things left out on the table, and myself and Coach Casey talked about that, especially before we went into the playoffs and as we went into the offseason after we got done, and just having that conversation, understand like there's no question you can get double-digit sacks and whatnot. You just got to continue to finish and find ways to do it. I mean, you look at the Minnesota game. That sticks out in my head. I mean, I missed 3 sacks in that game, so imagine that. I'm at 9, so. Yeah. It's a different ballgame. It's just about continuing to finish, and it's not easy in this league, but I know I still have the ability to do it.
I would imagine as a proud Husker, you were excited when Khalil Davis was drafted. We didn't get a chance to see him in the media too much, right? Because practices, you only get that 30-minute window. There was no preseason.
Yep.
How did he develop behind the scenes, and how much did not having the rookie minicamp, the OTAs, a truncated training camp, and no preseason stunt his growth as a rookie?
I'm not sure exactly if it stunted his growth or anything of that nature. What I would say is it made it a lot more difficult because he would get a lot more attention during OTAs, during minicamp, and all those particular opportunities. We'll see how this particular offseason comes together, as I know a lot of it's in flux. But I think Khalil got a lot of great work, and when he was put on the football field, he was expected to make plays, and he made plays, and he created havoc. And so as I look at him going into his second year, he has an opportunity to continue to do that. And it's part of my task in the collective defensive line group to bring him along and keep getting him to get better each and every single day that he's out there.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Next, we'll go to Gabrielle Shirley.
Hi, Ndamukong. Congratulations on the new deal and the birth of those boys. Following up on a question from Jenna about bonding with your teammates, and you had mentioned, you're entering your 12th season and sometimes you miss out on some trends. Can you specify for me? What have you had to clarify?
I mean, just all the different dances that they have. Sean, SMB is super good at keeping me in the loop and all that stuff of all the dances that they've got going on. But yeah, just the terminology and all the different things that they have, like staying woke and all the different pieces. It's for me, it's like, where do you guys even get these meanings from and creating them? And actually, one of my training mates probably did the best analogy is like, where did the word tight come from and how did that become such a good thing back in the day, that was in my particular era. So it's a handful of them. So there's too many for me to keep up with.
And then my second one for you, in the simplest of terms, there's probably a ton, but can you give me the best and worst as being a new father to twins?
The best is just seeing them grow and watching them, especially now that they're a little over a week old, just look at you and admire, like you're watching your face. The worst is crying when they've got a poopy and wet diaper and they've been eating quite a bit. And what I am actually loving about my boys right now, that's the only time they really I call it spaz out. They go crazy when they're poopy and wet. And so I've mastered doing it pretty quickly now.
We have time for a couple more. Next, we'll go to Kevin O'Donnell.
Hey, Ndamukong, congratulations to you and your wife. What an exciting year it's been for you. I got to ask you, I know we heard a lot last year that you guys felt you're going to get better in year two. I know a lot of that was directed with Tom Brady, but where do you think defensively you guys can get better? I mean, it looked like you peaked, at least for last season, in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways that we can get better. I'd have to go back and look at the film as we will throughout the regular season in the playoffs. But just off the top of my head, I would say we could do better in the run defense, even though we were considered number one. But we gave up some big runs, especially like you look at the Minnesota game again. They dominated us, and then you go back and look at the Saints games. They were able to have some big runs, especially when there were quarterback runs in different situations like that. And then in the pass game, I think we gave up some very, very big plays going back as early as the LA Chargers game. We had a couple deep balls that came over our head, which was a combination of rush and coverage. So I think as a collective unit, we can get a lot better. We didn't finish as the number one defense, but that needs to be our particular goal in totality.
And how much are you looking forward to getting back to the normal? I know the NFL is talking about OTA starting in a couple weeks with some protocols and then having fans this fall. I mean, how much are you looking forward to that? And Bruce Arians' training camp, where he says he's going to kick this stuff out of you guys.
Well, I hope he doesn't kick the stuff out of us during training camp, but I know it's part of the gig, and that's where you really get into football shape. So I look forward to it, even though for me, going into my 12th year, I've mastered how to be prepared for those things, and I've got a great group of my performance director and people that take care of me. So I'm excited for it and getting back to somewhat of a normalcy, and then really just from the standpoint of overall how we get prepared for the season and all the different pieces. I think it's always going to evolve and change each and every single year. I think there's better ways that we can find as teams individually, but also as a league to get better and keep that longevity.
We have time for two more. We'll first go to Greg Auman and then finish with Rick Stroud.
Hey, Ndamukong, when you think about ways this defense can get better, if there's one place you guys took a step back this past season was just scoring touchdowns. You guys had like 6 touchdowns as a defense in 19 and couldn't get in the end zone as much. Is there a key to that? I mean, obviously the offense did a really good job of taking your takeaways and turning them into points, but how you guys can get back into that here in 21?
Myself, personally, I can pick up some more fumbles and return them as I did in the previous years. But I think it's just continuing to understand. I think when we actually look back, if you go back into the Green Bay game and it's in some of the other games where we got those interceptions or we got those fumble recoveries, we have to work on taking the guy who made that fumble or that dropped that pass or whatever happened. We got to make sure we take them down because they're usually the guy that's sprinting to go and make that up. And that's really, if you look at statistics, that's usually the guy that's coming back to make that play and preventing it. So understanding those nuances, those keys, I think that'll, as a whole collective defense, we understand those pieces, we'll be able to get better and be able to find the end zone a lot quicker because, like you said, or like I said before, when I was able to get in the end zone and other guys were in the end zone, we took care of those guys. We did proper blocks and cleared the way and made plays and they ended up being scoring plays. But it's also a good thing to just put it like on the 5-10 yard line, get a quick rest, let our offense do the final finishing touches, and then we can come back out and get another stop. So I'm good as long as we get points.
And last question will come from Rick Stroud.
Ndamukong, you mentioned durability, 12th season and all that. I think you may have played the most snaps of any interior lineman last year on defense. I'm just curious, what do you have to do now differently to remain as or more productive than you've been during your career at this age than you did in the past?
I think we always go into the kitchen, as we call it back here in Portland on Nike's campus, and find new and innovative modalities to allow myself to play at a high level. In addition, finding ways to really just kind of manage my body, because every single year is different. I could go back to my rookie season where it was my knees that were bothering me that I needed to give extra attention to, my shoulder, wrist, all these different things. So you never know what it's going to be in one particular year that is going to give you, per se, an issue that you have to particularly deal with. So really, it's just being prepared. And if you have a solid base that is always at a high level, when you do have an issue, then you can manage those a lot easier as you go through, because everybody knows NFL has a 100% injury rate, as we call it. And really, I call it a boo-boo rate, because if you're smart and know how to take care of yourself and got a great team, then you're always going to be available. And I've always prided myself on that.
All right. That's all we have time for. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Good to see you guys.